Welcome back to the reading of Reclaim Yourself by me, Jessica Nuñez-LaMarre. Chapter 10, Navigating Our Emotions. As we navigate motherhood, work, family, home, and relationships, the more our needs, feelings, and wants can get shoved to the bottom. After being shoved down for so long, we can forget our feelings, need, wants, and desires are even there. Yet, they are in our invisible backpack. This backpack carries our hurt, pain, anger, sadness, and suppressed feelings. It carries our cycles, limiting beliefs, and fears. It's where we store the parts of us frozen in time. Many of us were never taught to listen to ourselves and trust ourselves. We were never taught how to healthily grieve or express anger, rage, frustration, or even happiness. Many of our parents didn't have the ability or capability or capacity to validate our feelings or their own. So we find ourselves here, decades later, feeling disconnected from ourselves. We are easily irritated, frustrated, angry, resentful, sad, anxious, guilt-ridden, burned out, or despondent. Many of us have been taught not to share or show our emotions and instead to suppress them. Here are some actions that may be taken to avoid emotions. Yell about how the house is a mess. Yell at the kids out of frustration and can't take on another thing. Yell at the kids when you are just mad or frustrated with your partner or work. Ask for help from a place of resentment. Make passive-aggressive comments to your partner. Put yourself last and justify it because everything else needs to get done. Explode when it gets to be too much. Shut down and walk away. Close yourself off. Overwork to avoid feeling. Justify the extra hours because there's so much that needs to get done. Engulf yourself in social media or TV or wine or whatever it takes to numb out. If we take actions to avoid the emotions like those listed above, it can result in kids shutting down and feeling hurt, sad, or angry, guilt for yelling at the kids, guilt for exploding or shutting down, a strained relationship with your partner, exhaustion from always having to do it on your own or choosing to do it on your own because there is a belief that it is easier than asking for help, or maybe that you don't deserve the help. Fatigue from the constant overwhelming thoughts and emotions, self-criticism and justification of your thoughts or actions, burnout with work or home and never being able to shut off, feeling overwhelmed from taking it all on by yourself, feeling unsupported again, staying in this never-ending cycle and don't know a way out. There is another way. Weighed down by the invisible backpack, we can feel like we are carrying it all because we are. We are carrying all the suppressed emotions around with us. No one taught us how to let go, release, and heal. This is what we are here to do. We unpack the backpack. We free the parts of us frozen in time. Let's do something radical. Let's feel our feelings and finally give them the validation they deserve. The way to not have the actions and results listed above is to allow yourself to honor the parts of you frozen in time. Listening to our parts, feeling our feelings, loving ourselves, and trusting our bodies is how we feel like ourselves again. It's the process of reclaiming our worth, of reclaiming ourself with a capital S. How does not feeling like ourselves and not being able to feel our true emotions manifest in our lives? The most common result of suppressing our emotions is disconnection from ourselves, because we are shutting ourselves down from feeling. We are shutting down parts of who we are. But I do feel, you may be saying, I feel angry, frustrated, happy, sad, and more. That is great. Now, do the same cycles or situations keep showing up in your life? And are the reactions typically the same? You may be feeling angry, but are you allowing yourself to feel the underlying emotion of potential sadness, hurt, or shame? The word emotion comes from the Latin word emovere, meaning to move, move out, or move through. Emotions flow through us. I first heard this translation a few years back and thought to myself, interesting. My emotions are energy in motion. They move through me. In the beginning, I had a hard time understanding this because when I got angry, it seemed instantaneous. Like the situation would happen and boom, I was angry. There were other times when it bubbled up. I would ask my kids or husband to do something, what seemed like 15 times, and then I got to the last straw, the boom, and I'd blow up. I truly thought I was these emotions, which riddled me with shame and guilt. How could I act like that? Why can't I control my emotions? Why do I always have to blow up? They don't deserve that. It did not seem like energy in motion. It seemed like me. It seemed like I was the anger, frustration, sadness, and grief. But I was not. I am not the emotion. I am the one who can see that there is a feeling like anger present and an emotion like sadness present under the feeling of anger. I may be feeling angry that my husband is not helping me, yet my emotion may be hurt that my partner, the one I chose to raise these kids with, is not supporting me. Emotions stem from stimuli. Emotions are neuropsychological reactions unleashed by an external or internal stimulus. So emotions are physical. While the behavior that follows an emotion may be less than ideal or even completely unacceptable, there are no bad emotions. We must learn how to differentiate the emotions from the behavior. Feelings stem from our emotions. Feelings are a self-perception of specific emotions, being a subjective expression of emotions. So feelings are mental. Emotions are physical. Feelings are mental. When we suppress our feelings or emotions in one area of our life, all areas are impacted. The emotion is going to flow. And if it doesn't flow, it gets stuck in the invisible backpack. If you are angry and don't allow yourself to be angry, then you may find yourself more irritated and agitated and easily frustrated. Instead of just allowing yourself to be angry and letting the anger pass through you, you may suppress it. And then it lingers, festering throughout the day, replaying in your mind and body and impeding your happiness. For me, from the outside, no one could have suspected the emotions that were bubbling just below the surface. When an emotion surfaced, most times I pushed it back down, but it was there. I could feel it. Sometimes the emotions were so intense that they would overtake my entire body. Learning my behavior is not who I am did not come from books, but rather from healing trauma from childhood, which was then affirmed by books. I used to talk of my childhood using this narrative. I had a great childhood. We played a lot of sports. My parents were focused on our education, and they sacrificed a lot so my sister and I could have a great life. Yeah, my parents were big disciplinarians, very strict, and would spank us, but I'm fine. We turned out fine. Better than fine. I have a great career, I'm married with kids, and I have wonderful friends. Yet, what was interesting is that when my sister would ask me about a memory from childhood, I wouldn't remember. She would say, "How could you forget that?" I had no recollection of it, but I held on to this narrative that I created. Let me expand on the word trauma for a moment. I once thought of trauma as something drastic, something horrific that has happened in one's life. The loss of a loved one, a major car accident, child abuse, or abuse of any kind. And while these are all very traumatic events, and they are not to be taken lightly, what I have learned from research is that everyone experiences trauma. Some may not experience horrific events, but we all experience trauma. Peter Levine, PhD, founder of Ergos Institute of Somatic Education, classifies trauma as the inability to be present. Neurologist Robert Scar defines trauma as any negative event that occurs in a state of relative helplessness. If you think about it from these perspectives, we have all experienced traumas. When you were a child and had to act a different way to feel worthy of love, that is traumatic because you were learning at that moment that you are not good enough as you are to receive love and that it must be earned. When you behaved a certain way that was classified as bad, then you were bad. And you were punished, which was traumatic. When I was young, I learned that my behavior was me. Why would you do that? Jessica, you know better. You never listen. Why can't you just sit still? Talking back was one of the worst things you could do. In my home, these behaviors were punishable with either yelling, spanking, or both. This punishment was the start of a long line of guilt and shame. I learned that I was bad, or at least parts of me were bad. I didn't understand as I looked back at these events. I didn't understand why I deserved the punishment and why I deserved to be yelled at or spanked. I was just behaving like a kid. But the inner child in me believed I must have deserved it, or else they would not have done it. I had needs that were not being met, like the need to be heard and seen and the need for emotional connection. When it was not met with love, I found other ways to get that emotional connection met, like acting out, because even though it was a negative emotional connection, it was still emotional connection. Something the little girl inside me craved. The reason I did not remember the memories my sister shared and had the narrative I held around my childhood is that it kept me safe. In childhood, I had to disconnect from who I was because I could not handle the yelling, cold shoulder, or spanking. So much so that I would force myself not to cry when I was spanked or yelled at because I did not want them to know that it hurt me. I was so disconnected from myself. Based on Peter Levine's definition of trauma as the inability to be present, I had a traumatic childhood. I built a barrier around my heart. It first started with sadness. Then when I could no longer be sad, as it did nothing, I would just get in more trouble. I'll give you something to cry about. The sadness turned to hurt. Why would they do this to me? I must have done something wrong. I must be bad. I must be a bad kid. Then the hurt turned to anger at them for treating me this way. And the anger turned to resentment. And I resented them, hence my teenage choices. Then the resentment turned to hate. But I couldn't always hate them, for they took care of me and loved me. That is what they told me, and at a deeper level, I knew. So again, I believed there must be something wrong with me. I started not liking parts of myself, and those parts I wanted to keep hidden, not just from the world, but from me. So that is what I did. I held those parts of me deep inside, in the darkness, and they were covered with layers of shame and guilt. When they tried to come up, I would quickly shove them back down or distract myself. For those were the bad parts. They were not to be seen. What I did not know at the time is my parents were playing out their childhood traumas in adulthood. They did not know how to cope with their feelings, so they took them out on us. This is a cycle I am committed to changing with my children. This is why I spend hours upon hours learning, growing, healing, and transforming. There is a difference between discipline and punishment. We can discipline our children without punishing them. We can empower our children to make choices and know their choices have consequences. We don't have to continue these patterns. It starts with healing ourselves. When we heal ourselves, everyone around us heals. I want to clarify that even though we are not our behaviors do have consequences. We can't just go around treating people badly and expect our relationships to grow and heal. When we do act from an old wound or trauma, it is important to acknowledge the situation and ask for forgiveness both from ourselves and the other person. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't me, that was my behavior," to excuse how we react in a situation. Share what triggered you, if you are aware of it, and explain how it felt and the overwhelming emotions. Share that it was not okay to treat the person like that and that you are working on it. It may look or sound something like this. When mommy is in the middle of something, I get focused, and sometimes it's hard for mommy to focus. And then when I get interrupted, I get irritated. It is like my whole body is vibrating with anger because I feel like if I don't get it finished now, it'll never get done. Or I may disappoint someone or miss a deadline. These are all triggers mommy is still working through. I'm sorry for yelling at you. You do not deserve to be treated that way. I am working on healing my triggers. This process will take time, so it is important to have compassion for yourself and others in the process. Don't be surprised when your kids start to say, "Breathe in and breathe out." Our emotions and the feelings and behaviors attached to them are our guidance system. They show us what we need, want, or don't want. They are one way of communication to let us know when we are in and out of alignment. When a part of us is activated by a situation outside of our control, kids not listening, spouse making sarcastic comments, a situation at work, something inside of us is activated. Often, it pokes at a festering sore from our childhood that has been shoved down for decades. When we were unable to process these emotions in childhood or at a young age, the emotion, the energy in motion, was unable to flow through us and can get stuck in our bodies, causing both physical and psychological reactions. It's important to point out again the difference between feelings and emotions. Feelings protect. Feelings keep the vulnerable parts of us safe. They protect us from feeling the underlying emotion. There can be layers of feelings. These feelings most likely protected us at one point or another and may still do. Feelings can linger. Emotions communicate. The first reaction to a situation, internal or external, emotions flow through us. An emotion is quick. One may not even be conscious of it. We can connect to the emotion and understand the emotion at its core. When we communicate to ourselves and others from a place of understanding our emotions vulnerably and compassion can come forth. This shift happens when we allow ourselves to feel our true emotions under the feelings. This is a key step in navigating our emotions. Look in chapter 15 for the 3-step rediscovery process for allowing our emotions to flow, to start healing your emotions. I know your life can be different. I know because mine is. Once I opened up to healing, I was able to shift my life. I started valuing myself, setting boundaries, creating more time for myself without guilt, and remembering my value and worth. This was a windy journey. When we shift our views and the way we show up in the world, people's expectations of us may not change. They may still want us to be the people pleasers because it suits them. It makes them happy. It makes their life easier at the expense of you. If they truly care about your well-being, over time, they will understand and start to shift as well. This can be very difficult for them and you. Showing up more authentic and showing up for myself meant I couldn't be there for everyone else all the time. At home, this meant I asked for more help and for more time. There were more arguments. It meant the kids were impatient and acted out to get my attention. Sometimes I gave in. Sometimes I stood my ground. Many times I made mistakes because that's what it's all about. Identifying the patterns and cycles, honoring and recognizing how you show up, doing the healing work, and trying new things. Some work and some don't. And then you know for the next time. At work, initially, it meant not responding to emails immediately. What I discovered is that most of the time, someone else would respond, the person sending the email would figure it out, or I would gain new knowledge or insight throughout the day to be more helpful in my response. To unlock the life I wanted, I had to transform my inside world. When I did, my outside world completely shifted. With this knowledge and wisdom, I started helping other moms. All of what you want in your life is possible. Many of us have just been living from old paradigms and programmings passed down from generations of family, society, culture, church, and the patriarchy. When we heal these old cycles and beliefs, we open room within us for ourselves, our own thoughts, beliefs, and desires. When we open ourselves up to believe and trust in ourselves, we remember our value and worth. When you release the items from the 200-pound invisible backpack you've been carrying around that no one else can see, more time and space will open up for you.